Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me? Hello. Hello. God, this thing's a bit loud. All right. Hi. So today, I have a very exciting title for you, Why Boring is Best. Maybe I'm a bit of an old coot. Right, so why is boring best? My name is Martin. I am the CEO of Tyke, not Tick, Tyke.io. You might have seen our very cool avatars lying around. We have stickers at the stand, so if you want any, come by, pick some up, they're free. We also have lollipops in case you need a sugar rush. Right, so what do? We're an API management platform. We see a lot of APIs. We're open source. And essentially, we have a lot of clients, especially within the enterprise space and in smaller business space. So we've seen a lot of best practice, and we've seen a lot of people trying to do things. Some really cool things, some really bad things. And I thought I'd share some of that with you guys today. And the point I'm really trying to get to is why boring is best. So we're going to try something, OK? I was hoping a few more people would be in here, but we're going to try something, OK? So hands up in the room. Who is a software developer? Come on, don't be shy. Yeah, OK. There we go. A lot of you. Brilliant. Now, hands up. How many of you guys are Java developers? All right, not bad. Quite a few of you. How about Python developers? Oh, far less. I expected more. Come on, it's OK. It's not embarrassing. All right, OK. How about JavaScript? Node? Any Node devs? All right, not bad. We're getting like a third here. I'm getting a good vibe. Lots of Java folk, though. Cool. Right, now for the real question. How many Kotlin developers? 1, 2, woohoo! 3, excellent. How about Rust? OK. Now I'm trying to get to, there's a point to this little straw man survey, and thank God you guys are falling into the normal distribution here, OK? Because there's a pattern here, right? This is The Economist pulled this out of a bunch of surveys. There's 3 different ways of measuring what's popular. And I think the first one is the Tyobe Index. The second one is Google Trends, and I've got another one which is from GitHub, right? So these guys are saying Java is the most popular language in the world. These guys are saying Java is the most popular language in the world with Python a close second. And then this is GitHub. According to searches, JavaScript has the highest number of monthly users. Nothing else in there, right? Where's the rest of them? Where's the rest of all the programming languages? There's a reason for that, and that is boring is good. Sorry, Java guys, but Java is boring, OK? So why is boring good? Well, boring is dependable. Especially if you're a software engineer, if you're a software engineering manager, you've got a big team, you're developing some new software, you guys will be building out your team, right? OK, so what do I need? Oh, I need a senior engineer, I need a junior engineer, I need a midweight, I need a tester, et cetera, et cetera. So you need a large talent pool. If you're going for Kotlin, and I had to hire from you guys, I had 2 people to choose from. 3 folks. I'd have to hire all of you. Great. With Java, I've got a really big talent pool. All of a sudden, there's more competition. There's standardized pricing across your lot. Sorry, but the more there are, higher supply. There's a better distribution of salaries. So I've got a better affordability for my team. I know I've got well-distributed seniority, so I've got lots of mid-range, I've got lots of seniors, I've got lots of leads. And best of all, lots of engineers means widespread best practice, OK? So it's all embedded. There's not 3 guys going, I have a very strong opinion about this because I'm the only person who knows how to do this. You've got an entire community backing you up, OK? It's pretty powerful, right? I know we're kind of saying the power of the commons here, but boring is good for team churn. Boring is just, in general, good for you because it means you can keep your software team alive and you can manage that churn better. Now, what's this got to do with APIs? Well, in my case, we founded a company, Tyke API Management Platform. Great. There's no open source one. We'll build one. Right, OK. And we'll build it in Go. Oh, shit. OK. That was a bad idea. Because now we're competing against Google and Facebook and all those folk who are hiring the very few Go developers that are out there. Out of interest, how many Go engineers are there in the room? Come talk to me later, OK? Right? OK, so what am I trying to get to with this? Because everybody actually every team usually has one of these guys. Yeah, your mad scientist, your Doc Brown, the guy that goes, you know, imagine yourself, you're there, you're the team leader, sitting in your office, you're just working on that latest PowerPoint presentation for the next conference, and they slam down the door, boom, right? I have a great idea. We are going to rewrite our entire microservices stack in Kotlin. And you go, yes, why? And they have a load of really good reasons. Now, don't get me wrong. Having one of these guys is great to have on your team because they're the ones that'll like go and investigate stuff. They'll try new things out. They'll experiment. They're your R&D team, right? Even if you don't have one, they're the ones that'll do it for you. Now, but they're a little bit dangerous, right? Because if you just let them run amok, they could seriously break things for you. And I'm sure there's a couple of people in here. I can see some people nodding, and they're going, yeah, I've made those mistakes before. Right, okay, so. But, and now, let me just tell you, I'm a bit of a history buff, okay? So, take this all back. Let me tell you about the ancient Romans. Back in the day, when these guys would go and slaughter millions and come back with all their loot, they'd have something called a triumph. So, there's the palace, and they're marching down the halls with the guy behind them holding a laurel wreath, right? And that guy was called an auriga, and he would hold the laurels over his head. But his job wasn't to do that. His job was to whisper in the guy's ear and to say, well, in Latin, obviously, to say, remember that you are only a man. And he'd whisper this over and over and over and over again. Now, I wish I had one of those talking to this guy when he slammed down my door. So what am I trying to get to? No, I'm not out of touch. The devs are wrong. I'm not being grumpy. What I'm trying to say is sometimes it's great to have this innovation to really look at the newest, coolest trends and run with those. And as an API management company, we see a lot of that. We hear a lot of, we have a monolith. We're rewriting the entire thing as a microservice. In fact, we just heard that. And I spoke to about 10 guys just now who have the same problem. Let's rebuild everything. We're going to do monolith, microservice, and GraphQL at the same time. Yeah! Right, well, hold your horses there, Sonny. Because there's some stuff we got to talk about. You know, I'm going to have to get something off my chest here, okay? Sorry, so serverless. This is a popular one. Actually, thankfully, not a lot of serverless going on at this conference. It's really cool. It was very different in the States. There were like 50 guys. All they could do is talk about serverless. They were really hot on it. Now, what is it? Who knows what serverless is? Yes, good. I don't have to explain it too much. So what is it here? We're calling it deploy your functions to a third-party cloud, have them run only when needed, and then build your entire application that way. Well, maybe not that last bit. But the common phrase you hear with all of them is, you just write it once, you deploy anywhere. You don't really. You're deploying to AWS, or you're deploying to Google Cloud Functions, or you're deploying to the Azure service. But then somebody comes along and says, I have a framework that lets you write once and deploy anywhere. You know, here's a few. Serverless, that's a big popular one. Apex, and I think Squeezer, I don't even know what they do, right? They say they're a framework, but actually I think they're just an ICO fraud, right? I have no idea. They're doing a Bitcoin thing. So actually just two, right? But where have we heard this before, okay? So a lot of you guys, has anybody here ever done mobile development? Any iOS, anything like that? Any sort of even heard about it? Okay, I come from an agency background, so back in the day, when I was a young man, we had all of this, Cordova, Xamarin, PhoneGap, and I've used 4 of these to build stuff for these 4 OSs, right? And that was best practice. It was really easy sell. But we ain't got 2 of those anymore. And then best practice came out and says, well, why are you using a framework? Right directly. I almost got in a bar fight with a guy I used to work with who said, well, it was my fault. I was Doc Brown over there, and I said, you know what you need to do is you need to write this application using Mosync, which is C++ based. God, I was an idiot. And years later, because I'd run off, obviously, and moved on, I meet this guy in a pub, and he's like, I had to change all of your code and rewrite everything from scratch. He was a bit of a mean drunk, so he got really angry. So, you know, let's maybe keep away from frameworks. Anyway, so I didn't say lock-in, but I'm going to say it, lock-in. What will AWS do to you when you start touching serverless? Well, let's just say there's a catch. So you start your serverless app, and you go, oh, I need a database. I need a scalable database because it needs to be global, right? Because I'm deploying to the edge. So I then have to use DynamoDB because that's the only active multi-data system that can do that. But DynamoDB is proprietary, okay? Oh, but what about a queuing system? I need to actually talk from microservice to microservice because they're not allowed to call each other. God forbid. So I'll use Amazon SQS. Okay, sure. But I need a cache for all the web-facing stuff. Oh, all right, I'll use Elasticache. Right, and how do I get traffic to the services? Oh, API gateway. Also, oh, I just buy yours. Great, okay. So what's actually happened? You've actually bought more servers. You just don't control them anymore. So, just saying. Right, so what does the grumpy one say? Serverless is actually really good. It's pretty cool. We have a lot of people using it, but it's good for throwaway prototypes. It's good for super nano microservices that have zero dependencies. Especially if you don't buy extra servers because you're using serverless. Please. And I wrote a little poem for you today. Okay? Now I'm going to say I'm not a great poet, but here you go. This is my advice. A serverless can be a server more, as Lambda and cloud functions do not bore. But solid design, yes, solid design will be forever. Generic abstractions to the dark side lead. And there the sharks of lock-in feed. So take the step, but choose wisely. To shrink your bill is mighty unlikely. Thank you. Thanks. So anyway, bottom line, when you're choosing serverless, choose wisely. I promise that will be the last poem. So, GraphQL. I got into a fight with an investor about this. I hope he still likes me anyway. Right, so GraphQL. So I don't know, you remember that MTV show with Exhibit? Where they would build cars for you, and they put stuff in your cars that you liked? I feel like GraphQL is kind of like that. It's an SQL layer in front of your decoupled services to recouple your decoupled layer into a single interface to make your interface developers happy. Nobody else, just your interface devs, your client devs, woo! As Exhibit would say, we put SQL in your SQL so you could SQL while you SQL. Or maybe not. I'm sure there's a far more sensible approach, but this is how it feels. Right. And this is how you get there, right? We use microservices for high availability. Yes. We use microservices for localized complexity and failure isolation. Yes. Use microservices for faster service iteration and innovation. Yes. Future-proof your software. Yes. Shit. Well, we'll use microservices so we can use GraphQL. It's a bad idea. Don't do it for that reason. I'll illustrate this. So here's your microservices. It's not quite as cool as the diagram we had earlier. You've got your gateway at the top. Lots of services. They have their own databases. Awesome. You're using the best tool for the job. They're independently scalable. You've got focused productivity by your teams. You've got isolated failure. Fantastic. Your clients can handle all that. But then you put a GraphQL query proxy on top of it to bind it all together. So, now, there's something wrong there, right? There's something wrong. I mean, you screwed up, right? You've got your GraphQL proxy introducing a single point of failure. Now, I know you can scale them out. But you have a duplicate data schema. You've got your data schema for your microservice. Then you've got a joined data schema across your services. And then you've got your made-up schema that you're publishing to your GraphQL layer. You also don't have independent failure anymore, because if your service fails and a GraphQL query comes in, it can't finish that query. The whole thing fails. You can't degrade gracefully. And lastly, you've suddenly added something that is wide open to the front of your API, and you can't predict every single code path. You'd need something like Pact. You need to figure that out for everything. Every single possible code path based on the GraphQL queries that are coming in. So, yeah, anyway. I just don't think GraphQL is one of those things that the DevOps team are very happy with, simply because it's not normal, it's weird, it's hard to do, so don't do it. Please, just don't. It's great for interface developers, but for nobody else. Okay, sorry. This was going to be an emotional moment for me. Okay, so how would you deal with this? Well, there's a lot of this at this conference. API design is not your application design. Your API is not your data model. So when it comes to making your client developers happy, good application design can yield good API design if you put the forethought in place. Don't just shove an SQL layer on top of your microservices and say that'll fix everything. It just doesn't make sense. Right, and the last one, and I'm sorry, this is like a super favorite of everybody's, microservices. And actually, I'm a big fan of microservices, so please don't get me wrong. So with microservices, the basic selling point is you increase the complexity of your application and runtime environment by an order of magnitude with this one simple trick, right? Because this is a microservice setup here. I found this online by a Vietnamese coding group, right? They were super cool. This was on Hacker News. They were super proud of it, right? Now, it seems a little obtuse, right? Because they did beautiful work. It looks lovely. But, I mean, you're using JavaScript, C#, MongoDB, MySQL, a third-party identity provider, and a web front end. And this is a shopping cart. It's a shopping cart. Why? No, OK, sorry, I'm ranting. It's a shopping cart that requires 2 database types, 2 different programming languages, a distributed schema, and it's hopefully consistent, maybe? I don't know. How are they doing the counters? Maybe. I don't know. Why are they using microservices for this? What is the use case? OK, it was a demo, but the illustrative point is my Doc Brown at the start, who slammed the door down and said, we have to build in microservices, needs to have a damn good reason to do it. You know, do you have a huge amount of scale? All the best practice says, don't go microservice first. Split off the stuff that's breaking. Is your availability that bad that you need to start looking at microservices first? Whoa, OK. Do you have the resource to dedicate an entire team for each service? I doubt it. Well, maybe some of you have got IBM around here, and they're big enough. Have you actually hired somebody who's done it before to help you out on this? A lot of them haven't. They dive in head first, and boom, big mistake. So there's nothing really new here. This is just best practice, and I'm sure you guys all know this, but I'm just reiterating it. There's nothing new. It's OK to build a monolith. It's not bad. It's all right. It's not a bad word. You know, the domains that you think require microservices, do that when you really need it. Just strip it away. Say, oh, I'll put that on the side. We can do that. We don't have to go microservice first. It will triple your go-to-market. The amount of companies we have seen that go microservice first headlong find themselves with so many headaches that it just doesn't work. And then they go back to their monolith, or they scrap the entire project. And I guess that's what these conferences are about, to tell people to be sane. Anyway, thank you very much. Bye.